Student groups around the country have raised concerns about the impact of load shedding on those who are studying, especially with exams having already started or about to begin at various campuses. The South African Union of Students says that blackouts have affected students' preparations for the exams. Let's take this up with Asive Tlanja, who's the national spokesperson for the South African Union of Students. Asive, welcome to Newzroom Prime. Good to see you. So give us an idea then of the impact that these power cuts have had on students at this time.
Good evening, Tembegile and your viewers. Thank you very much for having us. I think the power cuts have been absolutely devastating on students, particularly those that are writing exams. The reality is that majority of students are not on campus. They are studying and writing their examinations from home. So when the power cuts are implemented, it means that number one, students are not able to study. Number two, because students are writing online, they would use online platforms or portals. Those portals are heavily reliant on a stable internet connection. So often what happens is that when the power is down, the internet, the mobile networks are affected in most of the areas, particularly in the rural areas. Then what then happens is that automatically the students will be kicked out of their examinations as they are writing, meaning that they are not even able to complete their writing their examinations, their tests, leading to automatic submissions. Also, of course, we have also mentioned the issue of writing. And for those that have Wi-Fi, when the power is down, of course, the Wi-Fi cuts, and the same thing happens. They are locked out of the portal, and they're not able to carry on and continue with their examination. Also, so I think in the main, those are the challenges that we are having regarding the issue of the power cuts.
And are universities sympathetic? Are they making plans to meet students halfway who perhaps get locked out, as you say, because their computer switches off due to load shedding?
From the reports that we have been getting, it happens on a case-by-case basis, depending on that particular lecturer. There is not even in most institutions, there's not even an established protocol as to what will happen in this instance. So the students would have to petition that particular lecturer, who would then, based on the feelings and how well that lecturer is feeling that day and on what they believe to be a legitimate and a substantive case coming from the students, then they would afford them whatever relief that they might be able to afford them. But there is no standard protocol across the system. And in the event that there is, I think one of our biggest challenges, it has been the psychological distress that this has brought on. You will know this, Tembegile, that inherently examinations, they induce anxiety, they induce sometimes even depression and high stress levels among students. And so it becomes worse when they are going to participate in an examination that they are not even sure that they are going to complete writing that particular test. Also, another point that I was going to raise is that the publication of the schedules as to when the power cuts are going to take place, the load shedding, they're inconsistent, sometimes they're inaccurate, sometimes they're not even there. So the students do not know, as I'm sitting down and opening this test, when the power is going to cut. So that has added a lot of anxiety amongst the students. So already you will imagine that COVID alone has been a huge challenge to students, particularly students from poor and working class backgrounds, as they have struggled with data, as they have struggled with the devices from last year, by the way. So this has been really, it is absolutely uncalled for.
You say in your statement, in fact, you describe Andre de Ruyter, the Eskom CEO, as incompetent and arrogant, and you back calls for him to go. Why do you think that's the best way to address the load shedding crisis?
Andre de Ruyter is the CEO of Eskom. He is directly responsible for the woes that are persisting at Eskom. And the reason that Andre de Ruyter was brought in, we were sold a fallacy and a pipe dream that Andre de Ruyter was going to turn the utility around. However, what we have seen, quantitatively speaking, is that the utility has worsened in its ability to provide power to South Africans. So this is why Andre de Ruyter must go. And he does not even inspire confidence that he can turn it around, because he claims that, no, I have inherited this thing, and by the way, I'm not even going anywhere. So it is not of the view that is able to turn the utility around. He must leave, number one. Number two, the argument that he has inherited, this is a legacy of the past, etc., is the same argument that us as citizens, we have said that our government can no longer forever keep on claiming and ascribing the lack in certain instances and certain municipalities, the lack to provide basic services and service delivery to our people. It can no longer be ascribed to laws that had been passed over 50, 30 years ago. So the bottom line here, the principle is this: you are in charge, you take responsibility, particularly when you have been brought in for one single thing, and that is to bring about stability within the utility, and ensure that you take the utility out of where it is. And Andre de Ruyter has failed to do that. And he's not even giving us hope that he might even wake up tomorrow and try to turn the utility around. All he is telling us is that he is not going anywhere. While the poorest of the, because at the receiving end of what is happening, Tembegile, at the harshest end, it is the poor and the working class. This is also what we are seeing with our students. They don't have luxury of generators. They don't have, power interrupters, all of those things that would be UPIs and all of those things that would be used. They are they're in the rural areas. And another thing that I wanted to mention was that, by the way, these students, particularly the first-year students, ideally, students would have been taught by a lecturer in front of them. These students, some of them, have never had a physical interaction with their lecturers. So they have been self-teaching for the most part, because we appreciate that blended learning, although there's been online classes, they are not as effective. Physical classes themselves were not as effective. You will look at the throughput rates. It shows that on its own was not effective. Now students have had to self-study. On the top of the fact that they've had to self-study, there has been impediments that have been brought on by COVID. And now there are impediments that are brought on by Andre de Ruyter and his incompetence.
So the reality is, given the extent of the crisis, the energy crisis in this country, whether Andre de Ruyter stays or goes tomorrow, this load shedding crisis, these power cuts are likely to persist until possibly at this stage, looking at how far it's gone, until you have even graduated and started working. So in the interim, what needs to happen for students in order for them to be able to survive somehow academically with minimal disruption? Is it time for students to return to campus full time?
It is absolutely time for students to return to campus. In fact, we have been saying all students must return to campuses. There are many reasons. One of them, including the issues of the power cuts, is that many universities have generators. And in the event that they do not have generators across the campus, there are designated writing venues where there will be generators, where students will be guaranteed to start their paper, finish their paper without interruptions. Also, students will be able to be taught physically by lecturers. So we are saying students must return to campus as a matter of urgency. I think that one is absolutely crucial. In fact, one of the reasons also it becomes very important, most institutions, if not, in fact, all universities have student wellness services where they have at their disposal even psychologists that are able to assist the students. Right now, where the students are facing the biggest psychological duress that they have faced, that we have faced in recent history, they do not have access to that psychological support. So I think this is one of the reasons why we believe that students must return to campus as a matter of fact, and all of them must be returning to their campuses.
Asive Hlanjwas, National Spokesperson for the South African Union of Students. Great to speak to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tembegile.